Were you used to the level of ferociousness that Bob Fosse was famous for bringing to his direction?
Oh, I didn't care about that. I hear stories, hear rumors about he was rough, but he was rough. He should beat my mother. That's rough.
Ben Vereen, welcome to Bullseye. I am really happy to have you on the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ben, is it different to prepare for playing a character who lived or fictionally lived 160 whatever years ago?
Yes, it is. For me, it is. I can't say that for all actors because I'm not them, but I am myself. And for me, I've got to somehow connect with the ancestors, if I may, and ask their permission to delve inside that spirit of that person that I'm going to interpret their lives. And in doing so, it gives me an opportunity to open up a part of me and my experiences now and then. Because, life is a continuum. And although it seems like that was happening then, but the behaviors are happening now. And how I deal with them is how I deal with today. But how they dealt with them was how they dealt with them at that particular time. So I have to find a place of acceptance and allow myself to sink into that behavior. And sometimes it gets a little rough. It gets a little rough. Although the writers have written wonderful dialogue, but it's the moments that are not spoken. That's from the depth of the individual that you're trying to portray gets to come through.
What do you do to ask permission?
I have my own ritual. I get quiet. First of all, to get in stillness. A friend of mine said, once you read the manual, throw it away and trust your instincts. So I read the manual, I go within, and I breathe. I pray that I give honor to that particular character that I'm bringing forth at that particular moment.
Is it harder to make that jump when the character that you're playing on screen is an enslaved person?
No. Time is a continuum. And although consciously in a human, I'm thinking about the fact of the fear factor, that's what I got to get away from. And allow and trust that the inward journey is going to tell the story. We need to hear these stories. When you're playing a character, and I played a few, who have been enslaved, and the mentality of that period of time where they were at, they didn't know about voting. They weren't allowed to vote. They weren't allowed to read. They were not allowed. We were not. So they had to find a way to survive in that cultural understanding. If I could just get through today, I'll be all right. So playing a person then and playing a person now, I have a different culture around me now. Then I had a restricted culture of the character I was playing. He wasn't allowed to go to the corner of McDonald's. And I would have wanted to, but I'm saying, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. How does it feel different to play an enslaved man as a, person in your late 70s than it did 50 years ago when you performed in Roots?
Well, it's a continuation of the same story, isn't it? We're telling a story of a people who overcame the impossible and are overcoming the impossible. It's not over. So don't let us, just because we're here, no, it's not over. Not even Black people. And one thing I like about this story, it's about community. It's about the Black and white people coming together to set a people free, saying this is wrong. In Roots, it was about our own self-determination to be free. Although my character went to England and saw a new world and came back to tell that story of learned in England to his family, and that desire for freedom to express ourselves. That's something we cannot be taken away, and we will not let it be taken away. Not only for us, all people.
Does it feel different for you as a man in his late 70s rather than as a 30 or so year old when you were in Roots? Is your relationship with that time in history different? I mean, I'm sure it does in the sense that your knees and elbows are a little creakier, but like...
Yeah, they hurt now. In those days I could just spring across the floor, and these days I'm sitting back watching. So yes, there's certain wisdom that comes with the character. That Chicken George, I didn't have a chance to, well, that was my choice, to show that part of him. But this gave me the opportunity to continue Chicken George's story from another perspective through Isham, who was educated, who was determined to help his other African brothers and sisters be free.
You grew up in Brooklyn, New York.
Yes.
What's the first time you remember performing for other people?
I'm from the church. I'm from the Pentecostal church. I was taught at the age of 6 or 7 to get up my godmother, Mary Eddy, and Reverend E. Eddy, to stand out and express yourself from the inside out. Stand up. I remember the first song I sang was Yes, Jesus Loves Me. I was 7 years old. But also, I lived across the street from 3 guys who used to be in vaudeville, named Tip, Tap, and Toe. I used to see them doing their things all the time, so I had a vision of it. But that being able to stand there on my own, and when I really got a chance to perform, I tell people the first time I got paid was the Women's Auxiliary Fashion Show at Ebenezer Baptist Church. I made $5. I was a professional.
To sing?
Yeah, sing and dance.
How old were you?
12. I came home and said, Mom, I'm a professional. I need an agent.
The guys who lived across the street, Tip, Tap, and Toe, were they working when you were a kid? I mean, in show business?
Well, I did not see them on stage. I wish I had. But they would do things like they play jazz and they shine shoes. And I didn't know, they were vaudeville. And they would shine your shoe and pop the rags in rhythm. And they step back and do a little dance. They'd come back and shine your shoes. Oh, it was beautiful. Us kids used to press our nose up against the glass watching them. On Sunday, all the deacons would line up because we had a blue law in New York in those days. No liquor was allowed to be sold. And on Sunday morning, you see lying around the corner, all the deacons online to get their shoes signed because Tip, Tap, and Toe would give them little Dixie cups of little liquor before they went to church. They were hot.
The reason I ask is that, Brooklyn is a half-hour subway trip from Broadway, but it is also an entirely different world. So
yes, it is.
What I wonder is, when did you have the idea of show business as a career rather than, singing in church?
I'm still looking for a career in show business. I never did. I never laid in my bed at night looking up at the stars and say, one day I'm going to be on a Broadway stage. And I'm going to be working with people like Bob Fosse and Cab Calloway and, Ella Fitzgerald. I'm going to be. No. My family were workers. My mother worked as a maid. My father worked at the Gypsy Paint Factory as a worker. We never sat around a table and talked politics or talked show business. Dad was an adamant TV watcher. He'd watch TV as though it was his church. We never sat and had conversations about show business. It wasn't until actually my principal in junior high school saw me do some things at a talent show and suggested I go to the high school for the performing arts. And even there, I had never seen I heard talk of a Broadway show, but I never saw a Broadway show. I wasn't interested. I was interested in the church. I was singing in the church. I had a group called the Sensational Twilights of Brooklyn. Reverend Banks and Ronald Banks' family. And we'd go around and we'd sing in churches. So when the performing arts happened to me, it was a complete different culture. The arts.
Do you remember your audition for PA, the High School of Performing Arts?
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I wore a pair of Bermuda shorts, a T-shirt, my father's skinny brim hat, and a pair of U.S. Kid sneakers. And I danced to Killer Joe by Quincy Jones. And sitting in front of me with some people I did never see in my life. All these white people in front of me. And I'm dancing, I'm carrying on. And kind of, I finished my dance. I'm sitting on the side, and this woman comes over. Her name was Dr. Rachel Yoakum. And she asked me, how did I do? I said, all right. Years later, I found out who those people were. There was Martha Graham, George Balanchine, Jerome Robbins, a few unknowns. Those are the ones who were there to audit me for my audition. Years later, of course, I found out who they were, and I was quite honored to have had the opportunity to dance for them. But it was wow. It was amazing.
Where did you get the moves that you did? Did you choreograph it yourself?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I choreographed by Killer Joe by myself in my living room on Herkimer Street. Yeah. Yeah, I was my own choreographer, my own band and everything.
Did you love modern dance?
Yes, loved it. I wanted to be a modern dancer. That was my dream. And then I met Bob Fosse. Changed that all around.
Was part of it your body?
Well, I never thought I had a dancer's body. It wasn't until I met a guy named Tony Catanzaro, who was later in life, he was the principal dancer and the leader of the ballet of the Miami Ballet Company. Tony Catanzaro would sit with me after school, and he would work with me because I never felt I had a dancer's body. Everyone else had a dancer's body. And he said, no, you can do this.
What do you mean by that specifically?
Well, the tuck under butt and, the long arms and, the head up and that whole structure the dancer has, especially the ballet dancer. And the modern dance is the relaxing of that, but yet still keeping that same posture. So he taught me to get into that and be comfortable with that and to breathe into it and allow it to express itself through me.
How much singing were you doing in high school?
Not much. Matter of fact, I played steel drums in high school. Glenn Turman, I believe he did the show with you. So he was a classmate of mine. We had a group called the Utopian Five. We played steel drums. I didn't really sing in school. I danced and played steel drums. Matter of fact, my first show, I didn't sing at all. It wasn't until Sweet Charities when I sang on stage.
I mean, it's funny because, it's a much more obvious, if you're a 16-year-old, it's a much more obvious path into show business to imagine yourself as a pop singer than it is to imagine yourself as a professional dancer. One is all over every screen you look at and coming out of every speaker that you listen to, and one is kind of mysterious. So I'm surprised with the gift you have as a singer that it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be Elvis Presley or Little Richard or Lou Rawls or whoever you were listening to on the radio. Sam Cooke, sure.
Try Sam Cooke. That was not my vision. Understand, once again, my family didn't sit around and talk about show business and and all the stars and show. We never sat around that. We'd sit around talking about the food we had on the table and how to survive and things of that nature. So we never had that conversation of Broadway and what Broadway does. And I used to walk. I remember in high school, I heard about these things called Broadway shows, and I'd walk down the street and look at the marquees and wonder what was going on inside that building. Why was all these kids so excited about being in these houses up here? My place was Brooklyn. I'd sing in the church. And finally, when Bob Fosse had me audition for Sweet Charity, I sang on stage. That was my first time singing on stage. I had never seen a Broadway show until Bob Fosse invited me to see Gwen Verdon in Sweet Charity.
I mean, I think that you're also talking about a time when you were a kid and a teenager when Broadway may have been at its widest in its history.
Oh, yes. Yes, it was. It wasn't until people like Arthur Mitchell and who broke the color line. There was another young lady, a dancer. She also broke the color line at Radio City. Yes, it was during that time. There was the color line.
How did you get that audition for Sweet Charity? Do you remember?
I saw it in the backstage paper. And I went to the audition, and it was like the opening of all that jazz. Every male dancer in the world was on that stage. I didn't have clothes, and I just decided to go to the audition. And that's where I met Bob Fosse.
The minute you walked in the joint, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender, good looking, so refined. Say, wouldn't you like to know what's going on in my mind? So let me get right.
What do you remember about it?
I remember Bob. I remember this guy coming down the middle of the aisle smoking a cigarette at the Palace Theater. Smoking a cigarette. I remember Bob demonstrating the combination that he wanted us to do, and the ashes never falling as he did the combination while he was smoking. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this cat is cool. And then he decided to flick the cigarette, and the ashes fell. And he said, okay, do the combination. We couldn't remember the combinations. We were too busy watching the ashes. But I made it.
Were you used to the level of ferociousness that Bob Fosse was famous for bringing to his direction?
Oh, I didn't care about that. What I loved about it was that he wanted perfection because he was trying to get the perfection in you. He wanted to get you to your best. And that's what I loved about him. I hear stories, hear rumors about he was rough, but he was rough. He should beat my mother. That's rough. Yeah, no, I enjoyed Bob. I miss him.
Had you ever danced the way that he choreographed?
No. That style, that precision, the sharpness, the flick of a finger, the pop of a head. No, mine was flowing and leaps and reaches, and he just cut it all down. It was quite wonderful. Style.
What'd you have to learn?
Style. I had to learn style. How to breathe through the movement. How to trust it. How to find the angles and know the angles are right. Yeah.
Did you notice that you were good at it?
People tell me I was. I'm in it. I'm looking for, like Bob would say, you remember that line in All That Jazz? Where Bob would say, I'd look at Roy Scheider. Bob wrote it. He says, I look at a rose and I say, how'd you do that? And why can't I do that? I'm too busy being it to see if I was good at it. I don't know if that's wrong or right, but that's how I've lived my life. Being it. Thank you.
Of course. You also worked right at the beginning of your career with Tom O'Horgan.
Tom. Yes. Bob Fosse to me, after he learned I worked with Tom, he said, how did he do it? I said, what? He said, how does he do this? He was so influential in our theater. We don't give Tom O'Horgan enough praise. He broke the wall. He freed us. He gave us breath. He allowed us to be ourselves. He worked from the inside out. He was an amazing director. He would take me to cafes and a group of us kids, and he'd take a straw, an ordinary straw, and put little holes in it and they'd have a flute. He was an amazing, creative genius of a man.
What did you have to learn to be in hair and be good in hair?
To do hair, I had to undo everything I'd learned. How to be free. How to express myself in an open manner. You gotta understand, it was the 60s. We were running around talking about love. And O'Horgan was saying love from within and let it express itself through you. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And learning about meditation, learning all these things that was foreign to me. You know, I'm from the church. I'm from the Holiness Church. I'm going to hit down, smack around, and call Jesus and fall on the floor and slobber and, you know, Jesus. Ah! He said, no, be quiet. Try that. I'm not saying the other's wrong. It's all praising the same universal truth of who we are. Breathe that in and express it.
And somebody must be lyric, dearie. Oh, let the sunshine, let the sunshine, the sun. Come on, let the sunshine. You let the sunshine, the sun.
When you went in for that show, did you know what you were going in for?
No. No. A friend of my wife's at the time, before it was my wife, Nancy, Jody Kovacs was her name. She had been an agent. And we just got back from London. And Jody looked at me. I was wearing my high top, my boots, my riding boots and jeans and open jacket. And she said, you should be in hair. I said, hair, what's that? And I'd heard about hair when I was in London with Sammy. This actor had unfortunately, you know, OD'd or burned up or something like that. That was on in the news. I'd heard about it. And then she said, you should try out for it. You'd be perfect for it. I went, okay. So I went down to the Biltmore Theater. All these guys are there and girls, and we started doing this audition. Gave us, you know, the assistant came up and gave us a bunch of moves and things of that nature. And I felt this presence over my shoulder. And it was Tom. He was watching me move through the crowds and through the movement. Next thing you know, we got a call. I was going to Los Angeles to open the Aquarius Theater. Michael Butler was producing Hair.
I'm sorry to ask a shallow question about a production that changed the course of theater history, but I'll tell you, one time I was in a local television commercial in San Francisco, where I'm from, and I went in and auditioned, and they called me the next day, and they offered me the part. They told me to pay $300, not bragging, just the truth. And I'm like, oh, great. She goes, and they told you about the circumstances of the ad. And I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, oh, well, you'll be taking off your clothes. And I'm like, well, I guess I already said yes. I don't know. I could really use $300. So at what point in this process were they like, oh, and by the way, you're going to be naked at one point?
Here's the thing. Jimmy Ragley and Rado, they wrote some lyrics. What a piece of work is man. And the point was, we were in Vietnam. We just started the civil rights movements. We had just seen my brothers and sisters hanging from the limbs of trees in the South. We'd seen brothers and sisters, all of us being shipped off the ships in Vietnam, a place we didn't even know about, to be killed, to be maimed. For what reason? And Hare was saying, why do you want to destroy God's creation? What a piece of work is man. Look at yourselves. Look at your beauty in your nudity before you decide to put on this fragment of a costume. You are first inside of a human, beautifully made creation called the human body. That's what Hare was to me. That's what the nudity scene was to me.
I just watched All That Jazz for the first time maybe 6 months ago or a year ago. I had never seen it before. It is a substantially autobiographical film that Bob Fosse wrote and directed. And
yes,
you are in its finale. And it is like both all of your charm and all of your gifts as a singer and dancer. And it is like harrowing and scary as well. Or at least it was for me watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Did he like call you and say, I want you to come do this?
Yes. Yes, he did.
What did he tell you about it?
Nothing. Nothing. He said, I have this role I want you to do in my movie I'm doing called All That Jazz, autobiographical story. He said, I want you to play this this guy who's a TV host, and I want you to fashion him after Sammy. And I said, okay. All right, so that's where we got the beads and the chains and the thing. So because I read to Sammy on the plane, after Sammy saw the movie, said, if Bob wanted me, why didn't he just call me? I said, I don't know. So I did the bit of the host, TV host. I went back to Las Vegas. I was working at the MGM Grand. And I got another call from Bob. He says, Ben, I'm stuck for a finale. He said, I need you to come in for a week. I said, Bob, I'm working in Vegas. He said, just 1 week. So I said, okay. So I flew back to New York. And 3 weeks later, we had the finale. And I'll never forget, the premiere was at the William Morris in their screening room. And walk in, and a bunch of his friends around, Neil Simon and a bunch of writers, and we're sitting around the room watching this movie, and Bob's right to the right of me. And the finale comes, and then you see him die. Whew. He turned to me and he said, what do you think? I said, Bob, I got to go for a walk. That was so strange. A few years later, he was walking to rehearsal in Washington, the Kennedy Center, had a heart attack and died. Genius of a man. Genius and a good friend.
If folks haven't seen the movie, that finale is you singing a version of the Everly Brothers song, Bye Bye Love, that's called
Yes.
Bye Bye Life.
Yes.
And it is, it's like, it's as in the film, as in the story of the film, it is show business cranked to a level of tightness and intensity where it becomes scary and upsetting and overwhelming. How much of that, at least that was my experience as watching it.
Yeah.
You're dancing around as, the manifestation of show business, and you're surrounded by dancers who are dressed as the human body. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
To what extent did you get that context when you were doing it? I mean, did he say, I need you to give me all of the intensity that you can muster? Because you're dancing like you're Sammy Davis Jr. You're singing like you're a soul singer.
He laid out the roadmap, and it was my job to fulfill the task. And so he laid it out for me, and it was quite easy for me to slip into that character, singing that song, Bye Bye Life, at the finale of our lives, and seeing all of his life before him. You ever think about this now? When a person's dying, and someone said that it's like you flash back on, you see everything in your life before you die. That's what they say. And that's what Bob was interpreting to me. And the joy of my character as a showbiz performer was all the muster that he had brought to life. He's saying bye-bye to. So for me, it was quite an honor to do this piece with Ann Reinking there and Kathy Dobie, Roy Scheider. It was wonderful.
Bye-bye life. Bye-bye happiness. Hello loneliness. I think he's gonna die. A 1, a 2, 3, 4. Bye-bye love. Bye-bye sweet caress. Hello emptiness. I feel like I could die. Bye-bye my life, goodbye. Bye-bye your life, goodbye. Bye-bye your life, goodbye.
I mean, it's like a Vegas review, but it is also, I mean, your
Isn't life?
Ben, my life isn't. I would imagine that yours is probably a little more like that than mine.
Yeah. Well, you got to look at it this way. We all have our different stages of life. Yours is a radio, and this is what you brilliantly do, right? Mine is show business. I'm on the stage. That's what I do. Other person works in an office. That's what they do. That's their stage, But we all are in the same performance of life. And pretty soon we're going to say, bye-bye life. Bye-bye happiness. Hello loneliness. I think I'm going to die. Yeah, it's a journey. It's a beautiful journey. Let us enjoy it. Let us find a way to bring peace and love to one another. I guess I'm still a love child, aren't I?
Ben, we've covered a lot of really serious territory, and you've got to go in a minute, but I have a stupid question for you.
I haven't got anywhere to go. I've got nowhere to go. What is it? What is it?
Ben Vereen, how many scarves do you own?
Oh, a number of scarves. I love scarves. Yeah, I really do.
I'm not letting you off the hook. If you were going to estimate, Ben.
Here in New York City, I have about 30.
Oh, that's very reasonable.
Reasonable, yeah, reasonable. In L.A., that's another story.
Oh, okay. Well, in Los Angeles, you can afford an outbuilding for your scarves. So
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I have one.
I'm so grateful for your time, Ben. Thank you so much for talking to me.
My pleasure.